Hello and welcome. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt every single year. I'm diehard for this, man. I'm Johnny Venerable, the returning Brian Baldinger here on a football Monday. Baldy, it's been a hot minute. You guys have been cranking out tremendous draft content on the ALLCITY NFL podcast. What's been going on? What's been top of mind for you guys?
You know, Johnny, honestly, I'm like everybody else that's, kind of involved in this whole draft process, which is 3.5 weeks away. I'm literally just grinding tape, talking to, people, that are in charge, that are looking at these same guys, kind of cross-checking some things. And, pro days are finished right now. It's kind of really hone in right now and just really know what you're looking at. I mean, the numbers and the testing, that's all important, but I never want to get too far away from the tape. So I've just been looking at different players every day and just, looking at the good, bad, and the ugly of some of these players.
Yeah, we're all draft all the time right here. We put free agency behind us. We're going to get to free agency here a little bit because I want to get your thoughts on Cardinals adding a guy like Jonah Williams at presumably left or right tackle. Let's start with the draft. Baldy, I was at the Combine a month ago, and we waited for Marvin Harrison Jr. to talk, and he didn't talk. He didn't do anything, and he hasn't done anything this entire draft process. Obviously, I want your opinion on how he and his dad have opted to take the draft process, which is basically opt out, and how it potentially impacts what I think is elite tape. Like, if I'm the Cardinals, I would take him at 4. I have no concerns about it. Do you have any concerns at all with Marvin Harrison Jr.?
No, but I don't think it helps him. He still Monty might very well take him at 4. I mean, he should be there then. We'll see. But I think players should get to know teams. I think it only helps them. It helps them during this process right now, Johnny. It helps them down the road. If there's a second contract and the team doesn't want to pony up and they've made these relationships and they've left these impressions. And I know, Marvin very much probably will be a star player in one place for a long time, but you never know. And so I just think it helps. I just think it helps the whole process. And not that anything probably should be looked at beyond his tape for 3 years at Ohio State. However, you do want to know who you're drafting. And I do think when you talk to players, you learn about players. And the more excited they make you get about how excited they are about the game, the more enthused you become, or vice versa. And so, look, his father's Hall of Famer. Like, I'm sure he's given him great guidance, but I like to get to know my players. I like my players to talk.
Yeah, he is the apple of Cardinal fans' eyes, whether or not he's working out this offseason. But the other kind of option that has been created really organically past 2 weeks is the Minnesota Vikings now have 2 first-round picks. The Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins not coming back. They've kind of made it clear. Kevin O'Connell, like they're gonna draft somebody, and I think they're gonna come up for somebody. Like, how would you weigh that if you're Monti Ossenfort, knowing what you know about these quarterbacks? Like, do you feel like where the Cardinals are in their rebuild, they are in a position to pass on a potential trade down option from Minnesota or the Giants or whomever?
Well, they're in a position this year, Johnny, where they have 11 picks already. So you have 11 picks. You have Houston's pick from last year. So you got 4 and 27 right now. You've got 3 third-round picks. You've got 6 of the top 90 picks.
Yeah.
Now there's certainly going to be conversations for Monty to trade down. I mean, there's going to be teams that want to come up, and sometimes the further they come up, the bigger the bounty is, right? So, I mean, you got to take the phone call or phone calls. And you have to weigh it all, and you can create some assets for next year and add this year. So it's just a question is if Minnesota or somebody else, Denver or, somebody, Las Vegas wants to move up, into that number 4 spot. It's just a question of what are you going to be comfortable with taking? The fan base, I'm sure, wants the next Larry Fitzgerald. They want Marvin to come in there, and they want a star receiver. And that's what Marvin presumably is. So if you pass on him to trade back, to gain assets, you just got to know that the fan base may feel a little disappointed. Depends on who you get, but they might feel a little disappointed. and you have to be prepared for that.
Have you had a chance to dive into these offensive tackle prospects? Because part of the trade down option, I would presume for the Cardinals, we've heard they want to keep doubling and tripling down their offensive line. Like I do feel like Marvin, and we've said this, kind of the exception to the rule for them, but they want to go line of scrimmage players. I mean, Jonathan Gannon told us at the combine, like, we prioritize guys putting hand in the dirt. And I'm a big Joe Alt guy. Is he your offensive tackle number one, or are there some other guys that maybe we should keep on our radar?
Well, I think Fuaga is, and JC Latham are right in the conversation. Okay. Now, they could be just presumed like right tackles, but Paris Johnson might very well be your right tackle for the future. I don't know with Jonah coming in, how they feel about Paris. I thought Paris played great last year. Yep. Not great. I think he played very well. He started every game.
Yeah.
And he had a good attitude. I enjoyed talking to him during the season. But I think there's a lot there to work with. And then Jonah has, he played right tackle in Cincinnati because they went and got Zeus. And so he kind of went out of position. I kind of feel like Jonah has football left in him at left tackle. But I like Joe Alt. I'm a little biased. I know his father. His dad played with my brother in Kansas City for a long time. And I've known his dad, John, for a long time. So I'm a little biased. But it's you can get one of these guys. There might be 8 of them that go in the first round, including Graham Barton, who very well could be a center at this next stage. But there could be 8 guys taken. There could be guys at 27. So I think you depend. But if you want one of the elite guys, if you want Joe or JC or Fashanu right now or Fuaga, you might have to get in the top 15 for sure to get one of those guys.
Yeah, it's receiver, it's quarterback, it's offensive tackle heavy, which I think gives Cardinal fans a lot of pause, because it's like, okay, if we're going to trade down and get more assets, like, can you take a defensive player with your first pick if you're the Arizona Cardinals? Like, I think a guy like Byron Murphy II is somebody I would imagine they have a lot of interest on out of Texas. We know they've met with Jer'Zhan Newton. Jonathan Gannon, they love to prioritize defensive linemen. His time in Philadelphia and Minnesota. Cardinals don't have a bunch of premier players up front. Is there a defensive tackle that stands out to you?
I like Johnny Newton.
Yeah.
I like Johnny. He is an explosive 3 technique that gives you a lot of juice. I think he has got, he's got elite tape, but he looks like an NFL 3 technique. He's got great hips. He can go from a 3 technique to a 1 technique on one step. And I'm not taking anything away from Byron Murphy. Like, I think he's a good player. I think there's, 3 or 4 guys, but Johnny Newton has been my number 1 interior defensive lineman in this draft. Now, you can look at Darius Robinson. You can look at bigger bodies that are space eaters inside. But Newton looks like he's a guy that you need in there to push the pocket, to win the one-on-ones away from the center sliding away, that he's got short area quickness, the way, say, like, I don't want to compare him right now to Quinnen Williams, but it took Quinnen Williams a couple of years to get to be Quinnen Williams. But if you look at the way they have paid defensive tackles in the NFL right now, whether it's Jeffrey Simmons or Deron Payne, some of these guys, Newton looks like he's one of those guys to me right now.
Yeah, that disrupting defensive tackle that can get you maybe in a contract year 8 to 10 sacks. I mean, the Cardinals desperately need that. A Dockett, a Calais Campbell, and maybe you can get him in the 20s. Something you can't get in the 20s, I would assume this year, franchise quarterback. And we talked about it a little bit off air. The Cardinals are going to benefit from 4, maybe 5 QBs going really early in this draft. Now, you had a chance to talk to Michael Penix on the All-City NFL podcast back in February, and then he just kicked ass at his pro day. Like, has he inserted himself amongst these teams now in the top 15, 20 picks to be a first rounder?
Well, he's been my second favorite quarterback in this process.
Okay.
Now, I understand people have concerns about his injuries. Okay. It's real. All right. You get your ACL, twice, but he's just played 27 straight games at Washington without any injuries. Okay. Now, maybe he's turned a corner there. It's concerns for some teams for sure. He did all the physical work and there's nothing there. Okay. There's no flags. All right. He told me in that podcast he was going to run the 4.4s. It raised my eyebrows, because I remember asking Kyler how fast he is. He goes, Baldy, I hadn't run since, I was at Allen High School in Texas, but I probably in the 4.2s. Lamar never ran. There's some guys that run, but
Yeah.
I don't. Anthony Richardson ran a 4.44. That's the fastest I can remember. I don't know, John, exactly all these guys, but 4.46 is elite.
Yeah,
and then
it helped him last year.
It bails him out, but he wants to beat you from the pocket. And
yeah,
part of this quarterback process is this a guy that can elevate your program? He transfers from Indiana to Washington. Kalen DeBoer comes in. His offensive coordinator comes in, who's now at Seattle. And, they take a 4-12 moribund program, and they put him in a national championship game in 2 years. And along the way, he tells Roma Dunze and Polk and Jalen Polk and McMillan, stay. It's going to be worth it. Don't leave. And they all listened to him. And here they were, 24-3 over 2 years. I think the kid is pretty special.
What about JJ McCarthy? Are you buying in? Because like preseason, we're all talking about Caleb Williams and Drake May 1-2, and then Jaden Daniels has a Heisman year, rightfully so, puts himself in contention to be a top pick. This JJ McCarthy hype, Baldy, like I am fortunate for the Cardinals that it's happening because it's going to benefit them. But a guy who didn't throw 3,000 yards, I think he had 22 touchdowns. I know Jim Harbaugh, loaded team, right? Didn't ask him to do too much. Like when you look at the tape, like are you buying this as a top 3 to 4 pick, or is this kind of media or team driven to get some other guys to fall back?
Well, JJ McCarthy is benefiting from a lot of things right now. He goes to the combine, he competes, and he throws. A lot of guys decide not to do it. So on that weekend, when all these quarterbacks are throwing, JJ's getting all of the attention.
Yeah.
Okay? His coach comes out and says he's the best quarterback in the draft. Probably hyperbole, Johnny. Probably expect that from Jim, but still, it came out of Jim. Okay. And then, he was an elite 5-star recruit, IMG Academy, all that stuff. But the one thing that he's not going through that I remember when Cam Newton went through this, a lot of guys went through it. Like they're just watching tape and they're just finding reasons to knock you down. It could be Jaden Daniels. Well, he's got a slender frame. He can't take NFL hits the way he did. You can't really do that with JJ because they didn't ask him to do a lot. Against Penn State, he didn't throw the ball in the second half of a game. Like, what are you supposed to do to try and say, oh, well, he can't make these layered throws or these tight window throws or whatever people say.
Right.
There's just not a lot there to tear him apart on. And, oh, by the way, they just went 15-0. So, in a lot of these games were over, in the second quarter. So there's just not a lot there. And so now it's truly a projection. And so you have to be very, very confident in what you have seen, who he is, and how he's going to take his game to a next level when he's going to be asked to do all the things that he wasn't asked to do at Michigan.
You touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about the offensive lineman, but the Cardinals do bring in Jonah Williams from Cincinnati. He's got experience at left or right tackle. It sounds like he prefer to play left tackle, Baldy.
Yeah.
Think about DJ Humphries, unfortunately suffering his knee injuries, off the team now. What will Jonah Williams bring to the Cardinals? Because it's a 2-year deal, 26 years old, right? And they have this plethora of an offensive tackle class that they can still dive into. Like, is this the perfect kind of Band-Aid player, or could it be something more a la like a Will Hernandez for the Cardinals?
Well, it's a good comp because Will was run out of New York, couldn't nail down the right guard job there. Played very well last year between Froholt and Paris. Like, I thought Will, played well, and some of the protection issues he had in New York, it didn't really show up. Some of the lack of quickness, he just wants to maul you. But I think you got to let Jonah go play himself into the position right now and get back there. He was not an elite player at Cincinnati. One of the reasons why they went out and got Zeus. Mm-hmm. But he was a good player. Joe Burrow had a habit, because the way Joe likes to play, of holding the ball a while, which never benefits left tackles. Joe's not going to take off like Kyler would or will. So I think it can be much more than a Band-Aid. He could be your guy. We didn't think DJ Humphries was going to eventually. He was drafted. He was 19 years old. He played himself into the job. Yeah, but you don't know. I can't say. They've got a lot of picks. If you can upgrade the position, upgrade it. And sometimes, like Jonathan Ogden was drafted number 2 overall by Baltimore in 1996. Yeah. His first year, he played left guard. And just to get him on the field and get value. Then he went.
Can Joe Alt play guard? Do you think Joe Alt can play guard?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no doubt he can play guard. And so sometimes you go, okay, let's go plug him at guard for a year, and we can make the evaluation. That's kind of what Tyler Smith did in Dallas. He went and played guard, first-round pick out of Tulsa. Was a good guard, had a lot of power, looked good there. Okay, Tyler Smith's gone. He's their left guard, left tackle. I feel like if you like Joe Alt, at 4, you could take him at 4. He's going to be there. You could play him at guard, and if things don't work out with Jonah, you got your left tackle. I mean, it's a conversation.
Absolutely. We love the conversation with our guy, Brian Baldinger, Baldy, All-City NFL podcast. We're going to have him on every single week leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft. Thank you so much, Baldy. Appreciate the time today.
Yep. Appreciate it now. Yep. Talk to you soon.
Yep, absolutely. You guys like this video, subscribe here to PHNX Sports on YouTube. Look at my friend, dear Damon Dog, producer extraordinaire. Bo's going to be so sad he missed the returning Brian Baldinger, but Bo will be back tomorrow. Baldy will be back next week. And Damon, you and I holding it down today. How we living, my guy?
Doing all right, man. Holding down the fort. Gonna go to the D-backs game later.
You are. You're going to the game.
I am.
White hot D-backs.
Use our friends at Game Time.
Absolutely. We don't have a game time read today, but you know what? I like it nonetheless. I also like our friends at BetMGM. First bet, $1,500 offer. Sign up with the bonus code PHNX right now. Listen, you still got time. You want to parlay these college women hoop games tonight. I don't know who you like. LSU, you like Iowa tonight?
I like Iowa, but I think Iowa got out hot at the start, and then I think LSU's clawed their way back here. Yep, LSU's up 5 right now with 8 minutes left in second quarter. So dog fight.
Yep, you want to live bet that. You want to parlay that with the other game. You want to parlay that with the men's Final Four. Do it with our friends at BetMGM. First bet, $1,500 offer. All you got to do, sign up with the bonus code PHNX. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on your iOS or Android device, or check them out, of course, at BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least a 10 spot, $10 in your BetMGM account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if it loses. So again, you bet 10, you get 10. You bet 100, you get 100. You get 1,500 if you do the max, which of course is 1,500. But you got to sign up with our friends at BetMGM, and you got to use the bonus code PHNX. College hoops, just a couple games to go. Make the most of it. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Love it. Also love our friends, Desert Financial Credit Union. Right now, it is a key time to figure out your finances. You got tax season right here. And if you want to know where your money needs to go, you want the experts, you get them with our friends, the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals, Desert Financial, and the Venerable Household, and PHNX Sports. The trifecta, you can join it right now. Desert Financial, who has been serving the Valley for more than 84 years. They've got financial experts ready, standing by to help you achieve your financial goals and dreams. Look for Desert Financial for checking, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit card options, investment options, and more. Plus, like Damon and I, if you're an Arizona sports fan, no better place to do your banking than Desert Financial Credit Union. It's the only place you can show your team spirit every single time you make a purchase with the exclusive, not the elusive, the exclusive debit card branded with the Arizona Cardinals. Represent the Red Sea with the Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. Show your team spirit. Open up a free checking account online. Get an Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. Check them out. DesertFinancial.com/Cardinals to get started. Like this video. Let's get this bad boy over 400 likes. Be a good time here. Hanging out on a football Monday. We've got our guy Dalton Kates talking a little Vegas odds ahead of the NFL draft. But before we do, want to get to these super chats. Damon Dog, first up. How about this? Biscuits and Bear, $15. I asked Bo this. Wanted your take. Cards trade down for 11, 23, a 2025 1, and a 5th. So the Vikings package. Then trade back up to 5. Give back 11, 27, and a 2025 5th. The Cards net and you're still at the 23rd overall pick. Well, I don't hate it. It's a lot of moving parts. I think, Damon, we're going to talk about Kevin O'Connell and maybe some of the mixed messaging he's sending about the Vikings' willingness to give more than 2 firsts. But I think if you're Monti Ossenfort, you have to make the initial trade before the draft. I don't think that's something, when you're talking about moving that much capital in a segmented amount of time on April 25th, I just think it's too much. And I think the Cardinals, if they want Marvin Harrison Jr. and they have an opportunity to make a move with the Chargers, that groundwork, Damon, has to start yesterday. It has to already be, you have to have those conversations. You can't organically, as much as Monti Ossenfort wheeled and dealed last year. This is a different level entirely.
You got to have a pre-agreement essentially with the Chargers at the very least, that like if you are in this situation, that kind of trade will be able to facilitate. So, I mean, let me get this straight. Basically, you're moving down 1 spot and moving up 4 spots from 27 to 23.
Yeah,
that's essentially what it is.
You're basically getting Marvin at 5 and the 23rd pick, and you're sending off 27. I don't hate it. I think it's a lot of work for 4 spots, and I think it puts in a lot of, I don't know, doubt if you can't deal with the Chargers, and that's kind of up in the air. But I think if the Cardinals want to move back, they're going to move back, whether or not they feel like they can come back up. Because if they can't come up for Marvin at 5 or 6 or wherever, I mean, Neighbors or Dunze, like that's the next tier of guys you try to come up for. We just talked about Joe Alt. I think he's absolutely in that category, Damon. So, but the first thing is they have to decide unequivocally, is the Vikings package good enough for us to move down? And if you check that box and you say, yes, it is, then you have to be an adult and say, okay, we're willing to accept the consequences, which are a team or teams ghosting us and not giving us an opportunity to come back up, certain talent not being available, right? Like no one, and this is where I will not move off of, and I put this on my Johnny on the spot over the weekend. No one cares if the Cardinals complain or cry that elite talent didn't fall to 11. And I don't think the Cardinals will do that, but like you're passing on blue chippers 4th overall to go to 11 if it happens. Like you have to be okay with that. This is big leagues.
What we've been talking about, like the pressure that is going to be on that 11th overall pick in particular to become that star type player is going to be immense. Like, because Cardinals fans feel like they have that guy waiting for them already. But I will say that the thing I do like about that trade is that it does kind of hold the line. So I'm all for holding the line at any circumstance. So whatever we can do in that regard.
You love to hold the line. I'm going to tell you right now who may be pro holding the line, even if he doesn't know it. Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. So there was some quotes that he made last week. So last week was crazy. We didn't have a Friday show. Kevin O'Connell was at the owner meetings, and he was basically openly talking about, Damon, what the package potentially could look like if they were to move up. And of course, was gassing up just his 2 firsts this year. So here's what Kevin O'Connell had to say last week at the owners' meetings. I do think, newsflash, there is value in 2 first-round picks, not only in the same draft, but in this draft. Imagine that. A guy who has 2 first-round picks says there's value in it. At least the way I'm evaluating the draft. We feel like the people who are going to be looking at 2 first-round picks in this draft and then he goes on to say, oh, I clicked the button, my bad, something that may be of greater value than maybe your standard 1 first-rounder in a year, and however many that takes to go ahead and trade, like what needs to happen to get up there. So what Kevin O'Connell is basically saying, Damon, he's basically saying like, yeah, there are going to be teams that say, here's a first this year and next year and next year. We feel like just 2 1s this year is enough. Like we feel like, hey, you have 2 first-round picks this year, Cardinals, Patriots, this should interest you. Because even though the Niners traded 3 first-rounders to the Dolphins, those were future drafts, and those get, watered down, and we don't think that's what's happening here. Here's where I disagree with Kevin O'Connell, Damon. Those picks are late. Those are like 23 is at the end of the first round. 11 is outside the top 10. Like, I get what he's saying, but it's not apples to oranges. Like 11 and 23 by itself, Kev, you need an extra first. You basically, you got up on your own to the first round without trading an extra first. You used the second and the third. So by that kind of argument, yours is a little bit invalid, in my opinion.
I think it's posturing. I mean, but it does feel interesting because I think we kind of were under the impression that it was a little bit more over the line than it sounds with that quote, at least. Because like we were talking about it, if you're the Vikings, you make that trade with the Texans because you would think that they would have had talked to the Cardinals or the Patriots even about what it's going to take to move up into that range.
Right.
And now it seems like maybe the Cardinals could be asking for that third pick and the Vikings are unwilling to give it, but that's just what it takes to move up into the top 5 for a quarterback.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Kevin O'Connell, where you are life isn't good for you, Kevin O'Connell, when you need a franchise quarterback and Kirk Cousins isn't there to bail you out. Like, he's only ever known Kirk Cousins. And so Cousins is gone, and you're staring Sam Darnold down the barrel of a gun, and you're like, wow, I should probably get somebody else. Guess what? It's not cheap to come up. Even without Cousins and a little bit of Dobbs last year, you won enough games like you're not viable in the top 10 to get one of these guys without paying a premium. Like I know that Vikings are a serious franchise. And like, even with these comments, I'm tending to believe that like they're going to offer 3-1s to somebody. But like, for him to come out and say that, it's a little bit of posturing, to your point. Like, this is the price. The price is the price, even for the fourth quarterback. And then I'm sure if you're New England reading that, and New England's kind of been putting out feelers, we're going to get to our guy Dalton Kates here in a little bit, talking about whether or not the Patriots could actually trade down. But I do feel like it's like, hey, Kevin, you can stay at 11-23 and get nothing. How about that? You could get Bo Nix. You could get Michael Penix at 24. But why are you trading up to begin with in the 20s, Damon? You're doing that because you're prepping a package that clearly would take, I don't know, 6 weeks in advance to get ready.
I mean, and maybe I'm kind of disproving what I'm about to say here with the point that you never really know, but this isn't the Texans situation last year where we thought they're going to have a rookie QB, they're going to be rebuilding their team, and like that's going to be the kind of the situation. The Vikings have a structure in place. They have a coach that's been successful. They have a top 3 grade in the NFLPA grade, so their players are like, generally happy on a day-to-day basis. They have a GM who seems like he knows what he's doing. So I'm not expecting that pick to be a top 10 pick when it comes in next year. Like it's going to be another pick that's later. And unfortunately, like that's the price is the price, man. Like I don't know. I don't think that you're not in a position to be strong arming people when you're the one that wants to move up for a QB.
The teams, to your point, that are trading you the pick, you absolutely grade in on a curve. Like, if, I don't know, who's a team that's perennially terrible, like consistently terrible? If the Panthers are offering me picks, I'm taking that package. But the Vikings typically have their act together. I posed this to Bo last week. I can't remember the last time the Vikings had a top 10 pick, like a legitimate top 10 pick. I mean, they're usually picking in the bottom half of the first round. So Kevin O'Connell, like I'm sure he means well. And I still think the Vikings are going to trade up, whether it be with the Cardinals or somebody else. But good hell, like, you're not getting it done with 2 first-round picks. And I would do the opposite. Time to prepare your fan base a little bit for what this is going to cost. Like, hey, we know this isn't going to be cheap. Everybody hang on for dear life. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Damon, 3 firsts for Cardinal fans, that's not enough. We need 3 firsts plus some. Like that, the Vikings might think that's an overpay. Cardinals and their fan base, that's an underpay right now. Is it not?
It's an optics thing. It's an optics thing because you're right. Like Cardinals fans, we've been talking about 3 first-round picks, and half the chat, if not more, is like you can't do that.
No.
Whereas like the Vikings are now setting themselves up where if they do more than 2 first-round picks, are their fans going to riot because Kevin O'Connell's setting them up for that?
Kevin said at the owners' meeting that we were only going to do 2. Well, then you're going to draft Michael Penix. So much good insight, Damon Dog, and we're going to talk more about that here in a little bit. But first, I want to bring on my guy, part of Stealing Lines, one of my favorite gambling degenerates. Dalton Kates joins the podcast today. I asked him to come on earlier. I DM from time to time, but he knows what's going on. Top 4, top 5 in Vegas right now. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, Dalton, as it relates to the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Chargers. Just give our audience the overall synopsis about like all this garbage and where maybe there might be smoke, there's actual fire.
Yeah, I feel like right now we kind of getting consensus of who these top 4 or 5 picks are going to be. And now we're just in this process of putting the puzzle piece together. who is going to go where, what is Washington doing it to, how does that affect what's going on here? For me personally, I think this whole thing with the Vikings and the trading up, it's very, very unlikely, at least on its face, that the Patriots are going to be the team that is going ahead and trading out of a potential, franchise quarterback. They don't know if they're going to be in these spots again. Robert Kraft actually had some interesting comments, essentially saying like, I'm going to leave it up to our GM to kind of make the best choice for it possible. But he like kind of hinted strongly, like, we should take a quarterback here. So I think the fact that you're the Patriots, we've never really seen that. I think in the modern history of the last like 10, 20 years where a team has actually needed a quarterback, been in position where there's actually been like a potential franchise quarterback and then traded out of it. So I'm not really necessarily buying the idea there. For me, it looks like the Bears, Washington, Pats, they're all sticking there. And then this is where the Cardinals come into play. Are the Cardinals a team that believes that, Marvin Harrison is, so good that we cannot pass and trade back to get him? Or, you know what, let's get some extra pieces on here. We need offensive line. We need receiver. We could use some extra defensive help as well. And going ahead and starting to build more depth and more talent to kind of help build out this roster on a fuller extent. I think that's the question that comes into play. And the Chargers, I think, have had a for sale sign for a while now. And I think they ideally want that quarterback to slide to them at 5 so they can get more picks and they can get some extra talent there. With the new regime there, I think they definitely want to build up that offensive line and get some more pieces and players that play. They definitely need some wide receiver help now with Keenan and Mike Williams gone. So I think 4 and 5 are really the talking points and where things could potentially move and shape, where the draft starts to change for a while.
Yeah, to me, the Cardinals are the first and only phone call from Minnesota because the Giants are hovering at pick 6. And of course, like, feels like the Giants are going to go BPA receiver if they don't trade up. But you have that leverage if you're Arizona over the Vikings of like, yeah, you can trade with the Chargers. You're going to have to do that when you're on the clock. And that doesn't mean that the Giants could go from 6 to 4 when you're on the clock. I do feel like the Chargers to me are not a realistic trade partner as long as the Cardinals are open for business. Now, if the Cardinals at every point say, you know what, we hear your offers, Minnesota, we like them, we don't love them, we're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., then at that point they could decide, okay, on the clock, we're going to go with the Chargers. But to me, like we just talked about realistic and maybe not realistic trade packages, like Minnesota doesn't trade up into the first round 6 weeks before the draft to not move up, right? Like they're moving up with somebody.
Yeah. So this actually reminds me of, I think it was 2019, whenever Josh Allen came out, maybe it was 2018.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was 2018.
2018. So they actually did a similar move ahead of the draft where they got an extra first round pick. And they were kind of in the same boat where they kind of had Emma, right? And this is when the Cardinals were trying to get Josh Rosen sitting at 15. And it's funny, Bills were actually at 11. And they were in the process where we knew, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, those guys were going there. And then as the draft started unfolding, they already had the pieces. They kind of played their hand. And what I think is a little different from this year versus that year was the fact that, while the draft was going on, there was still Josh Rosen and Josh Allen available. So you get 2 quarterbacks. In this scenario, it's just one. So your leverage now is weakened in a sense where it's, I need to go and get ahead of them. I fully believe some of the Giants needing a quarterback and like willing to take like someone like J.J. McCarthy. I think that's fully live. If he makes it there to 6, you have to do that. And the Vikings have put themselves in a position where they know the price that it's going to take to get up there. They've already played their hand. They have the pieces around there. They have Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. They got a, offensive, minded coach where they can really build around whoever this young quarterback is. Like they're in on it. Like their GM has been talking about it for a couple of years now, when we're going to go and make our big play. And
they tried last year for like Anthony Richardson. They couldn't get him. Like they've been in this conversation for, it feels like 18 to 24 months.
Yeah, exactly. So this is it. And it's like, you have to, you're definitely playing some roulette there in a sense, if you aren't trading there with the Cardinals. And I think that's where things come into play. Do they genuinely feel the Cardinals are solidified at 4? If they are, and they feel like it's Marvin Harrison or whoever they're taking at 4, then I feel like the Chargers are the team that you're having those. I think they're having those conversations right now with both those teams. They might still be having those conversations with the Patriots. I just don't believe like that's really going to come to fruition at all. So I think things are fully fluid. I think they have multiple guys they like. There's no reason you're making this trade. I think they might have a preference on maybe someone like Drake May or JJ McCartney. They have a have a preference there, but I think generally you're very, very comfortable with the set of quarterbacks that you're making.
You're not allowed to be picking 11 and 23 and having a preference when the top 3 teams need quarterbacks. Like that to me is laughable, Dalton, when I see that. We would really love if Drake May could somehow fall to us wherever we trade up. But yeah, tough shit, man. Drake May, I don't love him, but it was projected to be a co-number 1 with Caleb Williams coming into college football. And then the Heisman winner, Jaden Daniels, is mixed in there. So yeah, you get what's left over. Like, I don't buy this McCarthy 2nd, 3rd, or 4th overall at all. Like, I firmly believe, to your point, McCarthy's around. I think the Vikings and the Giants are really the only 2 major players. Like, you're not buying, like, the Broncos have no assets, right? The Broncos can't come up conceivably. Benjamin Albright, friend of the show, said, like, the Broncos have called the Cardinals. I don't even know what Sean Payton would say in those instances.
Yeah, it's super tough. I feel like you have to be aware of the assets you do have and you're able to do. I think like the Broncos are in that position, right, where it's like we could really, really like JJ McCarthy, but it's like you're giving up 2025 first, 2026 first, and then what else are you throwing on top of that in order to get to that spot where things are really interesting in that boat. I do think JJ McCarthy is like as close to like a top 5 lock as we can get. Like it feels
you really think like he's gonna go either 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. I mean, it just, I would be shocked if the Vikings don't make a trade up for him. And you have to essentially bet on the fact that, you know, one of the Commanders or Patriots aren't taking quarterback there. And it feels like they're almost locked in those things. So it feels like we're going quarterback, and then Vikings at 4 or 5, right?
Give me your order. Obviously Caleb first, but is Jaden going to the Commanders?
I think this is such a fun draft where we don't know exactly where it's going to put place. Now, if I had to guess right now, I think Jaden Daniels is probably the slight favorite. I think some of the things they brought in with Mariota there, Cliff Kingsbury kind of has a similar style to what he could work with Jaden Daniels. We've also seen that trend in the NFL, just of these quarterbacks who are able to do a lot with their legs. So I think that within front offices, that is valued very highly. And not to say like JJ McCarthy or Drake May can't, because I think they definitely have athletic ability on the ground, but Jaden Daniels, obviously 1,000-yard rusher in college, is a little different there. So I think that, and I think Drake May, I think it's really hard. I know there's been a lot of talk about him falling and whatnot. For me, it just feels like very CJ Stroud-esque, where it's like there's going to be a lot of talk about it, but it's like this guy's been someone that heading into last year, like teams were like, it's the Caleb Williams and Drake May draft. It wasn't just the Caleb Williams draft. So it's like this guy's been on the NFL radar for a while now. And I think that he probably goes 3, but I also wouldn't be like fully shocked if JJ McCarthy goes there. But again, I think it's Drake May. And then I think at either 4 or 5, we're looking at JJ McCarthy. And let's say like it is 4, right? It would go to 4. The Cardinals are trading back. I think at 5 now, this is where like the for sale sign is up, where it's like, I think a team is trading up for a receiver here, whether it's the Chargers taking a receiver, whether it's the Jets trading up to 5 and they're just going all in. I think the Bears are also in that potential too, because Odunze might not even make it to them at 9. We're in a legitimate spot where 5, 6, 7 are all receivers because of trades. Everyone knows the Bears are looking at like Odunze and looking at receiver probably to get that. But I mean, these 3 receivers are head and shoulders above everyone else in the class. How often do you get 3 like blue chip type receivers to add to your team? And there's a lot of teams that need wide receivers, like Giants, Chargers, Cardinals. The Bears don't necessarily need one, but they can add one. Like the Jets as well. I know they signed Mike Williams, but he's only on a 1-year deal. So there's going to be a lot of competition there. And I think there are some teams that might even be further back that might be willing to move up. I know when the Julio Jones, AJ Green draft, like the Falcons jumped from like mid-20s all the way to 6. So I think there's going to be a lot of competition there for a trade up for one of these receivers in a scenario where the Cardinals do move back to 11.
Follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow. Dalton_Kates, stealing lines, stealing hearts here on the PHNX Cardinals podcast. Dalton, we'll have you back. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Johnny. Good catching up.
See you, brother. Yeah, love these comments here. Chris, wide receivers, the Cardinals' #1 need, and they'll have the best wide receiver to come out of the draft in several years. It's an easy choice, in my opinion, especially as you hear our guy Dalton, Damon, talk about like, okay, Cardinals trade down from 4 to 11. You can't put your feet up at all. Like, how aggressive, especially if the Chargers are committed to trading back, even without a quarterback team to trade down with. I don't I don't know what the sweet spot is to be able to come back up and get Marvin, get Rome, get Malik, but you would have to have that completely cemented in advance, because otherwise, then you're talking about the scenario, the nightmare scenario you and I both talk about every week. It's like, okay, circle back at 23, circle back at 27, and that is just for a team. And I love Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch that desperately needs an alpha number one wide receiver. Like, where is that coming from at that point? Hey, you're muted, my guy.
I don't know that you're getting that guy in that range.
No.
I really don't. Like we're talking about Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey. Like that's not that alpha type receiver. Like the last of that caliber of player is probably Brian Thomas Jr.
He is.
And
so I would take Brian Thomas Jr. at 11. I know a lot of people wouldn't. I would have no positional value. I would take him.
I'd say there's no way he gets past the Bills pick.
No chance.
Like that. So you would have to, at the very least, move up to get him from there, to get more in like the 20 range at the absolute, lowest point of his value. But yeah, I mean, I think like my main point has always just been like, we have the draft capital this year, that we have the 13 picks.
Right.
I don't like, and I know this is a lot of people's sticking point with Marvin. How many more picks do you need? Like, why not? Why could you not take Marvin and then trade down with your 27th pick to get more draft capital in next year's draft if that's what you want?
I love this comment from Ozzy. 11 sucks, man. Like I feel like this is like the synopsis of all Cardinal fans. I need this sign at Gila River Resorts and Casinos for our draft party if you are going and the Cardinals trade down. It's just like, can I just have a big sign that just says 11 sucks? And it's not 11 for Larry Fitzgerald. It's just legitimately like, what am I supposed to do with this, Monti Ossenfort? We were gifted this golden ticket. The QBs, the teams fell exactly how we needed for Marvin to be a Cardinal. And even beyond that, like Cardinal fans would be fired up for Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt or Roma Dunze. 11 is just like, I do not want to have to badmouth a corner from Toledo because the Cardinals take him at 11. I don't want to have to badmouth a third or fourth offensive tackle. Like, that's not the reality I want to live. But to your point, it's like, how many picks is too many picks? Because if the Cardinals, if this was last year and the roster was in dire need of just everything and anything, like Cardinals are in a better spot. They're not rebuilt, but they're in a better spot. I could understand. Like, oh, I love Marvin, but you got to do what you got to do. The Cardinal fans have taken their medicine, man. Like, and you have picks like aplenty this year, and you can trade down, like you said, from 27. But here's the difference with Ossenfort. Like, he wants a 2025 first round pick. Like, I like 11 and 23 are fine, but you have 4 and 27. He wants a first rounder next year to be able to leverage. And it's just like doubling down, it's like real estate. You just want to keep doubling down. And for Ossenfort, I can understand how that's tempting. I don't think it's the right decision, but I'm not going to knock him for it. But to your point earlier, you have to hit on these guys then. 11 and 23 can't sleepwalk into camp. There can't be a learning curve for these guys where they're, I don't want to say inactive, but they're not full-time players, ass kickers by Halloween, by, I don't know, first weekend in October. Because, Marvin comes in and he's your number one receiver from day one. Like, what other position can you say that about?
My biggest fear is that Monti showed his hand last year that this is the type of move that he likes to make.
Yeah.
Like every year he doesn't care if he can draft the most talented on paper non-quarterback in the draft. If he has the opportunity, he'd rather have the multiple opportunities. So that is, I think, what scares me the most is that he kind of already showed us who he is, with what his strategy is and when draft season comes around. But man, that's going to just hurt so much. Like, especially you mentioned it in your Johnny on the spot. If Justin Herbert is thrown for 5,000 yards and, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a 15 touchdown guy, like that's just every Sunday it's going to hurt.
I just like this graphic here. 4 and 27 is better than 11, 23 and 27. It's not, but it is. Like, because it includes Marvin Harrison Jr. If this is last year, of course you make that deal. This year, and I want 2 picks in the 20s. It's a great opportunity for the Cardinals. But this top 10 this year, and we've talked about it, could be historically great. Like Dalton just spoke about it. 3 bona fide number 1 receivers. Alt and Fuaga, our guy Brian Baldinger loves him. Like, those are premier tackle prospects. And I like Dallas Turner. I think I'm in the camp now as we get closer to this, Damon. Like, I will be opposed to a defender at pick 11. I think that's the wrong move. In an offensive rich draft, and I know they got a lot of picks to go, I think saying, well, we're just going to take a defensive player at 11. No, I think you need to lean in. If there's somebody worth picking at 11 that plays offense, where this strength of this draft is offense, I don't know. Toledo corners, and I love Byron Murphy the second.
I feel like you would almost rather trade down even further past that, because you're going to get the same
caliber
of player in the 20s as you would at 11 if you're picking defense.
Yes,
most likely.
It's a great point.
Like a Jared Verse versus a Latu 10 picks later, plus extra capital. I'm taking that Latu scenario every single time.
Byron Murphy versus Jer'Zhan Newton, if they're like 6 or 7 picks apart, like, you have to ask yourself, and Dallas Turner might be the lone player you can do this
for
with.
sure. He might be the one.
He might not be available, but like, he's the only player where you can say, like, yeah, there's a gap. But like, can't you see, like, all these corners could fall? No one would bat an eye. Cooper DeJean and Terrion Arnold, all these pass rushers, Jared Verse, Latu, Jer'Zhan, like, they're all interchangeable. What's the one fucking constant that we have seen during draft season? Oh, the 3 receivers are going in the top 10. Oh, Joe Alt's going in the top 10. You're passing on that. You have to be comfortable with that. And if it's for a watered down approach of, yeah, this draft has a lot of first round picks, but they're all the same from 11 to 32, that's a real big problem. Like, that's a huge problem if you're the Cardinals.
Let me ask you this. This is, I think, a scenario that could very well happen if they go to 11. Okay. What if they traded down, they got the 3 first, and they picked Fashanu? Because I think Fuaga is going to go to 10, I think, to the Jets. I think Joe Alt will be off the board probably.
Yeah.
And I think you might be staring that down as baby hands Fashanu as your left tackle of the future.
I think Fashanu has been leapfrogged by a bunch of players. Honestly, like, Baldy's talking about JC Latham as OT3. I'm going to tell you right now, and I put this in my mock draft, if you're not connecting the Chargers to JC Latham in a trade down, what are you doing? Like, if you've seen the video, JC Latham's pro day at Alabama, like, the Chargers worked him out on the field ad nauseum. Like, so maybe they're showing their hand. I think JC Latham is like OT3. I think Fashanu is going to be the guy, and we do this every year. It's the guy that we projected to be a top 10 pick all off season, during the season, whatever. And then we fast forward and we're like, oh, the NFL wasn't as high on him, and he's available at pick 23, or he's available in the late teens. So
if I told you that at the beginning of the draft season, you would have been over the moon for it.
Well, yeah, because I liked Joe Alt, and everybody told me I was an idiot, and Fashanu was better. Where are those people now? Like, Joe Alt's like 20, 21 years old, and he's like Marvin. He's like Marvin, where he has a very minimal bust value, but Marvin's just a tier above him. So
I do think the Chargers want to trade down.
They definitely do.
I get that feeling. So, I mean, maybe I know we were talking about it. Maybe it's too much work. Maybe you don't want that. You don't try to move up 4 spots. Maybe you try to get an extra second rounder. I know the Vikings don't have a second rounder this year, but you could maybe try to
get that from the Giants are the team to do that.
Yeah.
With. And here's the deal. If the Chargers could do a deal with the Vikings and the Vikings could do a deal with the Chargers, it would be done already. It would be done, but they can't. Well, who's standing in their way? Monti Ossenfort. That's what's happening. I'm sure that the Chargers would sign up for probably just the 2 ones this year and maybe a sweetener next year. That's how desperate they are to have more picks, Damon. And the Vikings would do that. But that's not the reality. The Cardinals are going to twist the knife with the Vikings brass and say, you know what? You can dick around with the Chargers all you want. We will do a deal with the New York Giants, a throwaway day 2 pick, and you're going to be screwed. And then we're still going to get a receiver of our choice at pick 5 or pick 6, I should say. So that's why it's not done. It has nothing to do with the Patriots. Patriots are taking a quarterback. We all know it. Like, I almost want to mute the Patriots and trade on Twitter because it's so stupid when I see that. Like, the Patriots are taking a quarterback. The Patriots, if they were going to trade down, it would have happened already. Like, teams trade up for the 3rd overall pick in March. It happens. This is the most valuable 4th overall pick in the history of the draft. and the
I
Cardinals
saw
know
a
that.
report today from the Patriots that made me kind of think twice about maybe what if they are trying to just prop up, what their actual position is, because it says it's from Tony Pauline, and he says there's a lot of buzz the Pats might draft JJ McCarthy number 3 at his pro day.
You know who put that out there? The Minnesota Vikings put that out there. You know who put that out there? Teams that want Drake May to fall.
I see personally, the way I took it was the Pats are trying to say, we'll take JJ McCarthy. If you want him, you better be able to pay a king's ransom for the number 3 overall pick.
Well, you got Kevin O'Connell out here complaining about 3 first rounders with the Cardinals.
Well, I'm saying maybe it has to do with the Patriots too. Maybe there have been some discussions there. Maybe I'm getting a little hopeful as well, but that's just the way I want to see it.
Listen, we're all rooting for it. We all are rooting for the trade up, but
yeah,
with New England, it's not. I don't think it's happening. Here's what is happening though: these super chats. We'll get to them now. Deuce saying $2 super chat. Oh, we ain't getting MHJ. Listen, it's not over till it's over. I'm still less hopeful than my guy Damon Dog is, but I would say 50-50 coin flip, 60-40 trade down probably at this point. But who knows? I mean, we got a full month ahead, less than a full month of speculation and potentially actual tangible news. I'm still of the mindset. I think if they're going to trade, they're going to do it before the draft.
I can't wait for the draft. We're going to have so much fun.
Libertarian Sasquatch $4.99 trading out of 4 for only 11 and 23. Monty should be willing to bet his job next year on who he drafts. If he trades 4 for 11 and 23, he should be fired. Like, that's a fireable offense in my opinion. And I love Monty Ossenfort, and he would never do that. But like, the price is the price is the price. You want a franchise quarterback in the top 5, QB tax, you need to give at minimum 3 first rounders. And I think he would take that. I think you would take 3 first rounders, Damon.
Yeah, I think so too.
MB $4.99. Get 11-23, a 2025 first and third for 4, then trade 23 and a third for Lamb. CeeDee Lamb would cost you 2 1s minimum plus a new contract. I pour one out for CeeDee Lamb ever becoming an Arizona Cardinal. At least
it would be great.
The
Cardinals would be awesome.
Yes, the Cardinals were robbed of CeeDee Lamb by Steve Keim, he who will not be named, and that ship has sailed. CeeDee Lamb was the best receiver in football last year. Like, the Cowboys aren't going to just give him away. It's unfortunate because he would have cooked in Arizona with Kyler, and Steve Keim just can't help himself. No steroids.
Remember when Jerry Jones was going on the radio being like, yeah, we don't know. We'll see about CeeDee Lamb. I don't know. Like pretending like he was like not even that valuable at the start of the season.
No, bro. He literally he prevented me from going to Waffle House in our fantasy football league. So I will be forever indebted to CeeDee Lamb. Easy No Steroids, $5 super chat. MHJ would improve Monty's reps during negotiations, would prove you either over a pay us or we stick in pick in future drafts, something to consider. I definitely feel like Easy No Steroids, to your point, like Ossenfort has that leverage. Like, hey guys, we have a huge need at receiver. We haven't filled it. We love Marvin. We're going to take Marvin. You have to blow us away. And if you don't blow us away, maybe we'll do a deal with the Giants, because guess what? We also met with Malik Neighbors, and we like Malik Neighbors a lot. Like, we could trade down. The Cardinals are playing this from every angle. And I do feel like that's the right play, but 23 and 11 do not equal a Hall of Fame level caliber receiver prospect. Deuce is back. $2. Damon Dog equals Johnny Jr. Alt plus Neighbors plus win. Damon and I think Damon and I could be brothers, maybe. Bo's a little jealous.
A little behind the curtain action. Bo always does get jealous about me and Johnny and just what a special relationship we have.
That's right. Bo, he's just kind of the third wheel sometimes, but
it is what it is.
If you're
someone has to be.
If you're missing Bo Brock, he's back tomorrow. Donnie Redbirds, and we do miss him. $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Donnie. First, I was anxious about a trade. Then I was content. Danny, I'm sorry. With 3 firsts and some change. Now I've traveled into a dimension of angry. This bum ain't naming the price. Kick rocks, Kevin. Your mom, Jesus, was it 3.5 at best? I can't tell you what Kevin O'Connell's mother, if she's a nice lady or not. I'm going to tell you right now, her son is a bold-faced liar, or he's completely delusional.
He should be ashamed of himself.
You should thank the Cardinals for picking up your phone call. Like, we gifted you Joshua Dobbs to have some fun during the season. You're welcome. There's back pay now during the draft.
Adrian
Kevin O'Connell.
Peterson.
That's right. Kevin O'Connell, to me, like, hey, Kevin, what if you strike out and you're playing with Sam Darnold? You're going to have a losing season in a division. Like, think about the Vikings for a second. I don't think we talk about this enough. The Vikings are going to be in a division now with Jordan Love, franchise quarterback, can't be disputed, right? Led the NFL in touchdown passes last year. Jared Goff, who's in the NFC Championship game, has rejuvenated the Lions, had their best season ever, and he's going to get a new contract. And the motherfucking first overall pick in Caleb Williams. Like, that's your division, Vikings. And you signed Sam Darnold, and you want to complain about, his price tag might be a little too much. Aren't the 11 and 23 look pretty good? You have no leverage if you're the Vikings. You've showed your hands. Your leverage is basically the NFL prohibits us from trading more than 3 firsts in 3 separate drafts. That's the biggest backing you have. Otherwise, it would be more. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think Justin Jefferson, like, he's got to be putting pressure on them too.
100%.
You know, like, there's no way he's sitting tight and being like, whatever you guys want to do with the quarterback position, I'll play with Sam, whatnot. Like, he wants, I'm sure, a partner long term before he puts ink to pen on that, or ink to paper on that new deal that he's about to sign. Like, he doesn't want to play with some bum quarterback. So I think, you know, he's going to need to see a move that moves him in order for the Vikings to keep their best player happy.
Yeah, I'm moved. I'm going to tell you right now by our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I do have to make an announcement. I think I'm allowed to say this on the podcast. Number 1, Gila River Resorts and Casinos Elite. Number 2, as of right now, subject to change, the PHNX Cardinals draft party is sold out. We appreciate everybody who's coming, the interest, the engagement. I've had people reach out to me within the past 7 to 10 days saying, I want tickets. I need tickets. How do I get them? Our general manager, like he always does, going the extra effort, seeing if we can get more tickets, more capacity, right? But there is some rumblings. We have some tickets to give away as we get closer to the event. We will do it on this show. So if you don't have tickets, could get free tickets. There's still a chance to be able to buy tickets, which were like $35 a pop. Of course, free food, free drink. But as of right now, max capacity at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. And if you want to test ride Gila River Resorts and Casinos ahead of our draft party on April 25th, go and book a room right now, because it is the premier, I would say, casino in the Southwest continental United States. Like, a lot of people say it's the best one in Arizona. I think it's better on par with any casino I've been to in Vegas. They've got state-of-the-art gaming floor, over 800 slot machines, blackjack tables, live table games, and this is the best part, Arizona's largest casino sports book. And right now, check out the Honey and Vine restaurant that features the all-new Santan Mountain experience, which is fantastic. Head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Let them show you what next level is all about. Damon, you and I had an opportunity to be there for every single home game this year. You talk about just a next level experience to watch and take in sports.
It's immaculate. I mean, you got the sports book across the way. I was getting up in the middle of the game, placing live wagers on the kiosk. We're going back to the Top Golf Swing Suite, playing some games. It's just amazing. It smells amazing. You don't get that at other casinos. That's a fact.
That's true.
It's just a great place. I was at another unnamed casino, and I just kept telling my friends all weekend, we got to get hit up Gila River Resorts and Casinos. It's different at Wild Horse Pass. It is different. Our draft party is going to be different. And again, if you're not in the area and you can't make it out, it's going to be obviously broadcasted here on YouTube. The entirety of the first round, the entirety of the second and third round. We do it draft coverage like nobody else here. PHNX Cardinals. I'll tell you who does the lottery like nobody else. It's the Arizona Lottery. And they're introducing a new unique ticket and promotion called Arizona Adventure. There are 3 ways to play and win big. You can check them out right now with Arizona Lottery tickets featuring 3 iconic landscapes, including our precious Camelback Mountain. And these prizes, these tickets, Damon, have prizes up to $50,000. You can also check in at geolocated adventures at 10 destinations across the state, from Flagstaff to Yuma. Visit www.azadventure.com. Check in at destination coordinates on the website, or check out the tickets online for a chance to win. Get this, up to $1 million in cash
and Arizona travel prizes. It's a call to action, folks. Visit azadventure.com for more information. You want $1 million in cash? You want travel prizes? Do it with our friends at the Arizona Lottery. It's not just about winning. It's not just about the prizes. It's about giving back to the state, our great state, our beautiful state, and the community. All purchases for sales, the proceeds go to supporting environmental conservation here in our great state. Check them out. Like this video, by the way. NFL news, man. Haason Reddick, we talked about it on the audio-only podcast that dropped on Saturday, opts to be traded to the New York Jets for a third-round pick that can become a second-round pick. So, like I told you, like the podcast is telling you, Cardinals will not do a deal with Philadelphia. And I think right now, this deal for Haason Reddick, Damon, I think it's an overpay by the Jets, because I think unequivocally, since Haason Reddick has been playing outside linebacker, he's been playing 90+% of the snaps. All he has to do is hit 60, and he's hit double-digit sacks every single year. He's played pass rusher. I think the lowest he's ever had, which was his first year with Arizona, was like 11 and a half. So I think a second-round pick is too rich for Ossenfort, especially with the way he hoards picks to deal, on top of everything that's going on with Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, it's not just the second-round pick. It's that you have to trade a second-round pick, and he's about to get a deal where he's going to be a top 10 highest paid D-end and edge rusher in football.
Yeah.
He's going to get a huge contract. And, like, not that he was bad last year. I'm not saying that. He was very, very good. But he did decline from the year before. He went from 16 and a half sacks, I believe, to 11. So you're not getting an upward trajectory or a consistent trajectory there. Most of his career, he's been more of a 10, 11 sack guy rather than
he's 29 too.
Guy.
He's 29 years old. I mean, he was
older
older when
do that deal.
Yeah, he was older when he came out of Temple, and it's like the CeeDee Lamb argument all over again. Steve Keim had a chance to keep Haason Reddick. Steve Keim had a chance to draft CeeDee Lamb. They missed those windows. Those windows are over now. Like, your job, Ossenfort, is to find the next Haason Reddick. And as much as it's enticing to look at the Philadelphia defensive roster and guys who achieved and sometimes overachieved, like a Josh Sweat under Jonathan Gannon, the bridge has been burned. Like, the Cardinals are not helping the Eagles win. The Cardinals are not helping the Eagles revamp their defense for Vic Fangio and are going to help clean out Gannon's old guys. Now, if these guys, Damon, ever become free agents, if they're cut for whatever reason, if they go to different teams, everything's on the table. And I think the Cardinals could be in play for like mid-season trade acquisitions again with Monti, Ossenfort, and JG for veterans that they know. There was never a scenario, and this is the only podcast that would tell you this throughout the offseason, in which Monti Ossenfort was going to call up that rat, Howie Roseman, and say, hey, Howie, heard you don't want Haason Reddick. Let me help you out. Here's one of my premium 11 draft picks. Here's a day 2 pick that likely will go into the second round. Like, just say it out loud. It's never happening. And to your point, Damon, a robust contract for a guy who's about to be 30 years old, like, you have to separate two things. Would you like Haason Reddick on the team? Of fucking course you would. Is it likely that it's going to happen because of the reasons we outlined? Of course not. Of course not.
It's too rich. And I also heard that the Cardinals and Monti don't want to deal with Philadelphia as long as Big Dom is employed. I heard that somewhere.
Is Big Dom rushing the passer? Do you know by chance?
What did you say?
Is Big Dom rushing the passer for them this year?
I think he's more of a space-eating nose tackle, but I don't know. His pregame routine of going around the field and, checking under every pad and stuff, that it kind of gets him. He's got to spend too much time doing security stuff to ever, actually do anything like that.
It does feel like, in all seriousness, the Cardinals are going to take a pass rusher high, whether it's 11 or 27 or 23 or 35 or whatever. Like, we talk about, like, there's a huge gap at receivers, a huge gap at pass rusher. Like, those two needs, with maybe some defensive line mixed in, like, that's clearly the weakest part of the team, right? Yeah,
the D line in general. I think just the combination of edge plus interior defensive linemen still, even with those signings and stuff, like, you don't have that star power type of guy. You don't have the dude who's leading the line at those positions. You might have filled out those depth pieces more, like we've spent plenty of time talking about, where you have NFL caliber football players on the field, but we could still use that upper end talent at both of those spots.
Yeah, and to Tommy's point, like, don't sleep on Zaven. They love Zaven. They love BJ Ojulari. And, like, Byron Murphy or Jer'Zhan Newton playing defensive line helps those guys get better. And I think they're going to take a defensive tackle and a pass rusher and a receiver. It just comes down to when and where. But there is no, and this cannot be disputed, there is no edge rusher. There is no defensive lineman that's on par with the prospect of Marvin Harrison Jr. There just isn't. Like, put positional values aside, whatever you want to do. Marvin is the best player of the last 2 drafts. That's why Cardinal fans are so adamant that they take him 4th overall. This is from Ryan. I don't know if this is appropriate or not. $2 super chat nonetheless. I'm jumping to 40. If we don't, I don't know what that is.
40 whiners, like 49ers.
Oh, 40 whiners. If we don't take MHJ, a fools. I think the carnage, Ryan, from the Twitter streets and the backlash will be significant if the Cardinals pass. And it will take, this is where Bo and I disagree. I know Damon agrees with this. If the Cardinals pass on Marvin, it does not matter who the other players are, assuming it's not Neighbors or Adunze. Like, if you just go chalk and you go 11, 23, 27 with just guys that are mixed into those spots right now, Cardinal fans are going to be pissed for a while. It's going to take preseason games, training camp appearances, regular season games for that to wear off. It's not wearing off in two to 3 months. Like, we're going to be sitting here doing shows in June, and fans are going to be pissed that Marvin Harrison Jr.'s jersey isn't available for them in the buy at the team store. And instead, you're buying a corner from Toledo. I don't even need to keep picking on, Quinton Mitchell, but like it's not going to be ideal until the games start. And if you're Ossenfort, that's okay. You're here to win games. You're not here to win fan approval. But just know, I expect this to go one of 2 ways. Either Marvin becomes a Cardinal and it's coronation period, or the Cardinals trade down and it gets ugly for a little bit. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality of the situation is, of course, they're not dealing in, oh, how many season tickets are we going to sell with our first round pick? You want to have the best outcome available that you think, and from Monty's perspective. But that being said, we do have to be realistic about where the Cardinals sit in terms of like NFL fandom. They're a fairly more recent franchise in terms of being in the spot that they're at, and they don't have the strongest fan base built into this area because there's so many transplants that live in Arizona.
Well,
and
their home game attendance needs help.
Yeah, I genuinely think that getting a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. is the type of move that wins people over. That's a type of move that little kids that are, watching highlights on YouTube are like, I'm a Cardinals fan. This is my favorite player. And those things, it's not why you should make a decision, but they should matter at the end of the day. And I do worry about what the mental, or like what the outrage of not picking Marvin will be.
Dude's $2. Will Monty have the courage to not pick Marvin Harrison Jr.? We're gonna find out, because last year was easier. Will Anderson Jr. was not a household name like Marvin. Like, he was a great player at Alabama, and he was defensive rookie of the year for a reason. But people understood that the Cardinals' job was a tear down job, and so people and then you got a left tackle from where? Ohio State. Like, people understood what you were doing.
I don't think Monty cares. I don't think that.
No, I probably
not. He has conviction in whatever he's going to do. I mean, I hope. Granted, I just was just talking about how it's going to matter from a marketing perspective, but I think at the end of the day, Monty's going to do what Monty thinks is best.
I mean, Marvin wouldn't prevent them from getting fired if they don't win games. Like, Marvin could be productive and they could stink on defense again, and like that's all that matters if you're losing shootouts. Like, I get that. It's about team building. It's 53-man roster. Easy, no steroids. $2 super chat. We raised the floor in free agency, now raise the ceiling. I'm always of the mindset, Easy.
Agreed.
Like, build out the depth in free agency. They've done that. Get your star players in the draft. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a star. He is a centerpiece building block for your franchise. Now, he's not the only one, but Damon and I both feel like he's the one with the highest potential and the lowest bust potential. Like, the Cardinals draft history, save for a couple guys, including Paris, is just bust after bust after bust. Guys who just, not only are they bad, not only can they not play, they are either released before their rookie deal is done, they don't have their 5th-year option picked up, they are out of the NFL. Like, go find Isaiah Simmons today. And people loved that pick. And people thought it was a crime to trade him for what they did. He doesn't have an NFL team today. He's been on 2 teams in his 4 years, and he doesn't have a home today. Like, that's the standard. for Cardinal first round picks. So excuse me and the rest of this fan base when it's just like, just go up there and hit a double with a potential to be a triple and God forbid a home run. But you know, at the very least, it's going to get you on base. Cardinals have been striking out in the draft, Damon, long before you were born. I mean, I know you've entered this fandom with us, fairly recently on PHNX Cardinals, but I mean, like, there are some names that are just jarring to read that have been drafted by this franchise in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you get when you're in the situation the Cardinals have been in for majority of their franchise's history. But
Charlie, our resident Charger fan, $1.99, Marvin Harrison Jr. to the LA Chargers. I'll clip it and send it to Johnny. I won't be able to see it. We'll be off the grid, Charlie. If that happens, no one will be able to find me. I won't have my phone on me. I'll be out in the desert alone and unwell. We're doing well here on a Football Monday. Like this video, the return of my dear friend, our co-host Bo Brock, returns tomorrow as we get the very latest on our precious Arizona Cardinal franchise. In the meantime, check us out. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt. Become a diehard. Joel, our guy on Twitter, re-upping his diehard membership because it's worth it. I think we all know it's worth it. Yep. Shout out to our guy, Joel. Shout out to everybody here in the chat. Again, get us to 400 likes. Draft party sold out for now, but we got free tickets on docket here in a ticket giveaway in the coming weeks. But you got to tune into every show to find out when and where. In the meantime, for our guy, Brian Baldinger, Dalton Kates, and of course, producer extraordinaire Damon Dog, I'm Johnny Venerable. Bo's back tomorrow. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.